Welcome back to another UFC fight prediction video. In this video, I'll be predicting the prelim fights for UFC Fight Night on ESPN Plus, Jacare versus Hermansson. As I've already predicted the main card fights in my prior video, and also in that prior video, I outlined what you need to do for the $20 cash prize and potentially a $100 cash prize if you can get that video to 100 likes. But that being said, let's get into the picks. So in our first fight of the prelims for this card, we have in the lightweight division Gilbert Burns versus Mike Davis. So this is a very interesting match. A lot of attention, a lot of my attention is going to be on this fight because Mike Davis is connected to one of the best Contender Series fights I've seen when he fought Sodiq Yusuff in a very entertaining fight. Two skilled prospects went back and forth on fire and was one of the best fights on the Contender Series I've ever seen. And I saw both of those guys as guys who will be go on to be, maybe not champions, not this, but at least be stars in the sport, stars in MMA, probably stars in the UFC. And like Sodiq Yusuff's 2-0 in the UFC, and now Mike Davis is getting his shot. But he's jumping much deeper into the pool. He's fighting Gilbert Burns. He's not fighting some guy who's just debuting like him. He's not fighting some guy who's on the way out. He's not fighting some guy that's kind of bottom tier. He's fighting a guy who's on himself is on the up and has been in the UFC for a good while. And Gilbert Burns had probably one of his best performances ever in his last fight. So he has, with Gilbert Burns, he's physically strong. He has power, good striking, and world-class jiu-jitsu. So that's a very dangerous fighter right there. But I'm going to lean to Mike Davis just because I'm so high off that one fight. And like was so impressed with him and Sodiq Yusuff in that fight. That I'm going to lean to Mike Davis. Yes, his experience might not be the best. He's undefeated outside of the Sodiq Yusuff fight, but I'm still not all that impressed with the people he's beat. But he's training with the right people. He's training with Mike Perry and some other people at that gym. They have a lot of people to rub talent off him. And his skill set looks pretty good. He's very athletic. He has solid wrestling, solid striking power. And he seems to have that it factor. So it's going to be a tough fight. And Gilbert Burns should win, but I'm going to lean to Mike Davis. I think his loose and flowing striking, he might be able to pick apart Gilbert Burns and find openings, land big shots, and maybe crack the questionable chin of Gilbert Burns. It's going to be a good fire fight. But I think Mike Davis is able to crack him and finish him off. And I say he does that in the second round. So in this fight, I have Mike Davis via second round TKO. Now to our next fight we have in the welterweight division, Court McGee versus Diego Lima. So you got a interesting fight right here. Diego Lima kind of have a glass chin. His striking is technically pretty solid, but kind of glass chin. Grappling's pretty decent, but it's like he's susceptible to getting laid and prayed and out grappled and, laid and prayed basically. But his submission defense is solid, grappling solid enough, striking solid enough. So glass chin on the feet, on the ground, susceptible to getting laid and prayed. Court McGee on the other side, his career never really reached the peak it could have reached. He kind of, like what's called, plateaued. Yes, the best word. He kind of plateaued. And I guess the sport kind of passed him by, but he's managed to stick around. Won the Ultimate Fighter, 10 years ago now? Or probably 8, but a long time ago. Pretty well-rounded skill set. He has good offensive grappling, good defensive grappling. He's pretty much a well-rounded fighter, a gym junkie. So he's he's solid everywhere. He knows the techniques and knows what to do in these positions, that position. But maybe he just kind of lacking that it factor or lacking that extra oomph to get him up in the sport. But in this fight right here, I don't think it really matters too much. I think Court McGee striking is a little bit more cleaner. Keep his hand a little bit higher. He doesn't have a glass chin. He's not easy to finish. He's not easy to put away. Court McGee is good at pressuring fighters, and with a guy like Diego Lima who has a glass chin, you can push him back. That opens up opportunities to land big shots, and that opens up opportunities to take him down. Like I said, he is susceptible to getting laid and prayed. And Court McGee can't implement that type of style as he did in pretty much in his last fight. He was in his opponent's face, was hurting him, tagging him, getting in his face, take him down, ground and pound him. And I think he could do the same to Diego Lima. It's going to be an interesting fight, but I think Court McGee just has as far as how these two match, I think it just matches up more in Court McGee's favor. So in this fight, I'm going to go with Court McGee via decision. Now on to our next fight we have in the women's strawweight division, Angela Hill versus Jodie Esquibel. Well, Angela Hill is coming off a loss. I think she's on a 2-fight losing streak or 3, not probably 2-fight losing streak. And Jodie Esquibel's only got one win in the UFC, so she might be lost 1 loss, 2, 1 loss, or something like that. Whatever case, really not the most impressive record in the UFC. And all that being said, as far as how they match up, both about the same age. But yeah, both about the same age. They're both are the same height, same reach. But Angela Hill has a significantly more volume, has better striking defense. She's a much cleaner striker. I think like this, she's overall this basically she's the better striker in this fight. And Esquibel, if you could say a weakness of Hill is her grappling, or at least when somebody pressures her and take her down, they might be able to lay in prayer and hold her down. She has a difficulty getting back up to the feet. But with Esquibel, she has not secured a single takedown in her UFC fights. Matter of fact, I think she's 0-2 in the UFC. When I was saying she's like 1 win, I don't think she got a win in the UFC. But in either case, when I look at her stats, she has 0 takedowns in the UFC. I think she tried about 10, 15 takedowns, but got none. So her takedown offense isn't the most impressive. And that's an avenue to beating Angela Hill that has been most successful. And you don't have any, nothing on your resume that shows your ability to do that. I'm going to lean heavily to Angela Hill to just outstrike her, be the better striker, land more volume, land the cleaner strikes, control the striking battle, and win a decision. So in this fight, I have Angela Hill via decision. Now on to our next fight we have in the lightweight division, Jim Miller versus Jason Gonzalez. So Jason Gonzalez is the younger fighter for sure. Gonzalez is around 29, 28, and Jim Miller is 35, 35, 36. Jim Miller has been around the game for a long time. A couple years back, he was like on an 8-fight winning streak, and really throughout this whole time, he's managed to stay relevant in the lightweight division. Maybe not one of the true contenders, but at least a guy that's going to give a lot of people go and beat a lot of people and be a tough out for a lot of people and stick around, keep winning, stay competitive. Yeah, basically, he's been able to stay competitive at the top level, but not really beat at the top level. Just over last 3-4 years. Prior to that, he was a top fighter, but over the past 3-4 years, he's been kind of this tough fighter that kind of hangs around near the top, but not at the top. Solid striking, solid jiu-jitsu, tough, gritty. Despite him getting up there in age and maybe his career being like it's falling, not falling apart, but coming closer to the end than it is to the beginning, he still seems to have that hunger. Because a lot of fighters, they start falling over, but he never just falls over or lays down for anyone. He's always out there scrapping. Still holds good shape, good physibility. He can hold a good count for himself out there. And I want to look at Jason Gonzalez. Really, he hasn't beaten anybody in the UFC. I think he fought one guy that wasn't in the UFC. That's not even in the UFC no more. That's his only win. There's other wins and losses. Well, he did lose to Gillespie. That's not really a bad loss. The other loss is really not that bad. But when I look at his skill set, I don't really see nothing all that impressive about him that could really cause Jim Miller any problem. Jim Miller's the better striker, the better grappler. Gonzalez might be the better wrestler, but is that really that significant of an advantage? His really only advantage is maybe his youth. But Jim Miller has shown still to be hungry. When we look at the people he lost, look at his fight with Dustin Poirier and Anthony Pettis. You might say, oh, he clearly lost those fights, but he pretty much took Dustin Poirier's legs out from underneath him. He didn't get finished. Anthony Pettis' fight, he gave Anthony Pettis a fight, and when the decision was one-sided, and he might even won a round in those fights, in both those fights. Charles Oliveira dominated him and submitted him quick, but other than that, he's been out there competing and with the guys that still factors in the sport. And despite it might seem like he's on the downtrend, he's still very game. If he showed in that Alex White fight that he's very dangerous, you don't underestimate him. And I think he could do the same against Gonzalez, because Alex White is pretty much everything Gonzalez is, except better and more experienced and more fights in the UFC, more wins in the UFC. But basically, I'm gonna say Jim Miller is able to just do whatever he wants in this fight. It's gonna be a competitive fight. I'm sure Gonzalez will bring it, but I think Jim Miller can beat him everywhere. I don't think he hurts him and gets him out of there. And I say it's going to be probably a late stoppage. So in this fight, I got Jim Miller via 3rd round submission. Now on to our next fight we have in the women's strawweight division, Carla Esparza versus Verna Jandiroba. Interesting name. Cool, sounds cool. I think she's a Victor strawweight champion currently, I guess she had to vacate those titles to come to the UFC, but the most recent Invicta strawweight champion. Versus Carla Esparza, who I think was at one time the atomweight or strawweight champion in Invicta some long time ago now. And Carla Esparza was, as we all know, the inaugural UFC, strawweight champion until Joanna Jędrzejczyk came and beat her, which was a pretty quick. She didn't have that belt too long. But how did these two people match up? Verna Jandiroba has some decent striking, but what she really is good at, her Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. She has solid Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Carla Esparza has some decent striking, but what she's really good at is her wrestling. Another thing about Verna Jandiroba, yes, she's a recent champion of Invicta, but one thing I kind of had to note about Invicta now is that it's not the Invicta of old. It might still have a lot of good fighters or good women fighters and stuff. It might have all of that, but it's no longer, the cream of the crop or the pinnacle of women's MMA, because really when you look at the best women in MMA, they're in the UFC now, or at least for, the weight classes that the UFC has. You saw that somebody like Angela Hill was able to become the strawweight champion, when in the absence with a lot of other top fighters and Invicta coming to the UFC already. So you can't say her competition certainly isn't weak, but it isn't the best like you would say a couple years ago. The best women are in Invicta. So Carla Esparza has been fighting the best. She just lost to Tatiana Suarez, who probably most likely is going to be the next champion at this weight class real soon. And she lost a very close fight with Claudia Gadelha, who was a killer herself and was really the number 2 girl at this weight class for a long period of time. So a close loss to Gadelha and a domination to Tati Suarez, who would pretty much dominate everybody except maybe 2 people in this weight class. So you really can't say anything about Esparza's losses. And even her wins have been against tough competition. And as far as styles going, I think Carla Esparza being the wrestler versus the grappler, and Carla Esparza had solid jiu-jitsu of her own. The wrestler is going to dictate where the fight goes, and I think Carla Esparza is able to get the takedown, control her, and really kind of neutralize her submission, because Carla Esparza is no slouch on the ground, no slouch in the grappling. And wrestler versus grappler, or grappler versus a wrestler that knows grappling, 2 people at high level, I think the wrestler takes her down, is able to control her, and kind of just play, just shut off the submissions and grind her out to a tough decision. So in this fight, I got Carla Esparza via decision. Now on to our co-prelim headliner we have in the heavyweight division, Andre the Pitbull Arlovski versus Augusto Sakai. So I'm going to be straight up with this matchup. Andre Arlovski has a real good shot to win this fight, but this is his age and the fact that everybody that's irrelevant in the weight class has pretty much knocked him out. You got Nagano knocked him out, Overeem knocked him out, Stipe Miocic knocked him out. Like pretty much all the people see are factors right now have knocked him out. Did he fight Junior Santos? No. Did he fight Cormier? No. But really, most people that's in his way right now are at least in the way of his path to even thinking about a title, have knocked him out. And it's not really even been competitive. So, given his late age and given the fact that there's really not too much of a path to a title, I don't know where he's hungry. I guess he's still hungry, but I know it's kind of leaning against him just for the fact that he's already accomplished just about as much as he's going to accomplish in way closer to the end than he is to the beginning. Versus Augusto Sakai, who struggled with Chase Sherman. That's really one of the reasons why I'm going to be hard to lean to Augusto Sakai. The fact that he struggled with Chase Sherman, lost the first round, had a close second round, and had to finish him in the third. So that against Chase Sherman, not saying Chase Sherman is bad, but Chase Sherman really not nowhere near cream of the crop. Maybe with some fine tuning he could be, but right now, and in that fight, he certainly wasn't. And to struggle against guy, even using I'm just debuting excuse, is not really that impressive. And Andre Arlovski might look bad, but we look at who he lost to and really their recent performance, you see that the people he lost who really aren't that bad, really aren't bad at all and really solid fighters. And he had competitive fights with them. But when the guy feel like Andre Arlovski, I feel like his body's banged up, and you see it in his fights, sometimes he just he wants to do things, but he doesn't. It's maybe he has some injuries lingering, or his body can't react the way he wants it to react. And that's only going to get worse and worse as he gets older. And I'm just going to lean to the younger fighter, Augusto Sakai. He could make way more improvements being a young fighter than Andre Arlovski can from fight to fight. So Augusto Sakai can make up for that Chase Sherman fight and find improvements and find weaknesses in Arlovski, especially with Arlovski having so much tape. It's easy to find weaknesses in him, and it's hard for Arlovski to fix those weaknesses. So I'm going to lean to Augusto Sakai. I don't think he's going to knock Andre Arlovski out, because Arlovski's chin hasn't really even looked that bad in the last couple fights. First it looked like he was at glass chin, but he hasn't really been knocked out in a good minute. He fought Tai Tuivasa, who hit him with a lot of good shots, who was supposed to have power, and I think he only got sort of rocked maybe one time in that fight. So his chin's been holding up pretty well. I think Augusto Sakai just beats him in the decision, maybe outpoints him, outworks him. Just being a younger fighter and having the more workable body to do the stuff that Arlovski's body can't do and push the way that Arlovski can't push in the fight. So in this fight, I got Augusto Sakai via decision. Now on to our prelim headliner we have in the welterweight division, Ben Saunders versus Takashi Sato. So this is a fight where I think Takashi Sato is favored. I think he's a staple of the Pancrase organization. I think he's favored for some reason. Then looking at his most recent fight, I don't see why. I guess they're saying Ben Saunders may be on the way out and he's on the way up, so it's leaning to the new guy. But when I look at Takashi Sato, he's supposed to have such this and such that. His grappling's okay, his ground and pound's okay, his strike is okay. Offensively, his strike is okay. His jab not as sharp for his style. His jab not as sharp as you want it to be. His straight's not as explosive. It's not like that piston like you want it to be. He doesn't fire as often, especially off the counter. It's more so when his opponent is stationary or going back that his straight has real effect. But when they're coming in, is really not even there. Like his counter shots really on the best, so there's really nothing you really have to worry about counter. He does have a nice counter elbow. That is a good counter, but his counter straight is really not the best counter. It's not really that active. Jab not that active. Like that ring generalship not as good as, like, some people reported about it from at least looking at his most recent fight. And his takedown offense really not that solid. He got taken down by a striker from New Zealand, a rock striker. Somebody he dropped, was able to get up and take him down. Not no D1 wrestler, not no high school wrestler, but a striker from New Zealand who got rocked was able to take him down. So his takedown defense isn't that good. As a matter of fact, he got taken down, got his back taken and all that stuff. Then got hurt in like the second round. And that guy really isn't in love with that Ben Saunders is. Ben Saunders might be looking like he's bad right now, or maybe looking like not his best right now. But we look at who he lost to. Really hasn't lost to any people bad. He lost to all solid fighters who are factors in this division. I think Ben Saunders' striking's just on par with Sato, if not better. And his grappling, if he could take Sato down the way that his last opponent took him down, Ben Saunders can finish him. Because his grappling is just on a different level than Sato. His striking is on a probably same, if not a little bit better than Sato's. It's definitely experience. I think the only real worry with Saunders maybe his age, and maybe the fact that if he gets hit clean, maybe his body can't respond as well. The fact that he's older. And matter of fact, he never really had the best chin anyway. But I'm going to lean to Ben Saunders in this one. I think he's just the much more technical fighter, much more experienced fighter. And stuff that I wanted to see in Sato, I did not see. Like, I didn't see that ring generalship I wanted to see out of him, like especially putting that jab in my face, then landing that straight. Because if he could control the ring, then he can land those big shots and put Saunders out of there. But if you're not going to be letting those hands go and putting him, like, dictating into the fight with your jab and controlling the range with your jab like you should be, especially with his size and his frame, then what's the point of it? I think Ben Saunders can strike with him. He's not going to be really controlling the range like he should be, and as active as he should be with that jab. So Ben Saunders, he's going to allow Ben Saunders to be in the fight, and allow Ben Saunders to be able to hurt him, allow Ben Saunders to be able to get in the clinch, go for takedowns, and allow Ben Saunders to be the veteran and just let his technique and experience show in the fight. And I think that's what's going to happen. And I say Ben Saunders is able to work him and submit him in the third round. So in this fight, I have Ben Saunders via third round submission. And that concludes my fight predictions for the prelims of UFC Fight Night on ESPN Plus, Jacare versus Hermansson. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe, and come back for more videos. Peace.